One of the things I've realized as I've gotten older is that the older you get, the faster time seems to move by you. And one of the most time consuming things our generation likes to concern itself with, one of the most passive, instant gratification activities is video games. And if you take away the small moments in video games, the time you pop off after a win, the times when you're chatting with your friends on the Discord chat, the little times when you're actually present and enjoying yourself. Gaming is actually a very long grind. It's a grueling experience. Like maybe you've had it when you've logged on to gaming before, and you find that after a couple hours you're not really having fun anymore. It's just a grind. You feel like you have to go back to this gaming thing. You feel like it's a boss that's telling you you have to come back to work. You have to play for this certain amount of hours until you reach this and that milestone. And if you don't, well, you're just a failure. You're not living up to this kind of potential, and you're holding yourself to this standard for a game that really has no bearing on your reality, for a game that really means nothing in the long run. And you probably know that, but you still hold yourself to that standard. And if you keep holding yourself to this rigorous dedication to gaming for years to come, you're going to waste years of your life. Because gaming is like a vortex, it's like a black hole. It sucks you in, it keeps you down, it keeps you inside of it. I've known that because I was addicted to gaming for years. It was my passion, it was my hobby, it was my reason to live for years on end. And I only got out by really asking myself, well, what am I afraid of if I quit gaming? Why don't I quit gaming? Don't I have better things to do with my life? I started asking myself those questions, and I started devising strategies to get myself out of that place. So this video is essentially me giving you my guide on how I quit video games, with a special focus on how to quit video games before it's too late. Because you don't want to be the guy, the 40-year-old guy who has a wife and kids and like an office job, and he's just doing the bare minimum in all of those different parts of his life. He's putting in the bare minimum effort at work. He's putting in the bare minimum effort with his family. He's not being present. He's not taking his kids out. He's not taking his wife out. He's not even talking to them most of the time. He's just putting most of his focus towards gaming. He has his sights set on gaming. That is his thing. He plays in his man cave or in their basement or whatever. And he kind of lives like a double life in that sense. One that's like the normal white collar middle class American guy. The other is this online avatar, this gamer, where he gets to live out his true fantasies, what he truly wants out of his life, in the darkness of his gaming room or his basement or whatever. But that's where he gets to live his true fantasy. That's where he gets to live outside of his life of quiet desperation. That's where he can truly express himself. And you probably don't want to be in that situation. You probably want to take these dreams, these aspirations that you have, that you've currently been investing into gaming to be great and accomplish something and master a skill and have this sense of mastery and competence and respect within your community. I want you to take that, harness it, and use it to, one, quit gaming, but then use it for good in real life, for your advantage and other people's advantage. So that's what this video is about. With the introduction out of the way, you probably don't want to be like this guy, right? And if you quit gaming while you're young, then you kind of open up the rest of your life to this newfound wisdom that you have that, oh, gaming's not for me. I used to game, but I don't do it anymore. And now I'm in my early 20s, I'm in my late teens, maybe I'm in like my middle teens, and I just quit video games, and now I have the entirety of my life in front of me to make more mistakes, keep failing until I eventually reach this kind of success in the future. All the while, you're going to be twice as productive, you're going to be twice as happy, you're going to be twice as present because you don't have gaming in front of you to distract you. It's not like a vampire on your effort anymore, because that's what gaming is. It takes away your focus and attention, like I said before, but it also just makes you less effective in other areas of life because your focus and your attention is more spread out and it's being invested into this one place that yields absolutely no returns. So if we can get rid of that, then you will be at least twice as effective in your career, your relationships, whatever you want to level up, in a sense. So while gaming probably isn't your fault, I mean, if you think back into your past, how did you get introduced to video games? Maybe you had friends who played it, you asked for a console for Christmas, your parents bought it for you, maybe your parents introduced it to you, but one way or another, you kind of got suckered into gaming because maybe you wanted to fit into your circle of friends, or maybe someone else introduced it to you when you were too young to think critically about that stuff and say, hey, maybe this isn't the best use of my time. But whatever the situation is, you probably, the fact that you started gaming probably isn't your fault. Maybe your older siblings were doing it, whatever. But it's not necessarily your fault that you are a gamer, that you started gaming way back then. But it is your responsibility to fix the fact that you are a gamer, right? You might be a victim of fate, but now it's your responsibility to take your fate in your own hands, in a sense, and really tell yourself, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not going to submit to this life that's been cut out for me as it pertains to gaming. So once you accept that quitting gaming is your responsibility, you empower yourself to take control of your own life. And that's going to be kind of a theme throughout this video. But the first step to taking control of your own life and to taking control away from gaming and back to yourself is saying, hey, this is my responsibility. I'm going to fix it. And I have faith, I have hope that I will quit this thing. And it's within my power to quit it. So this is going to be the next thing I'm going to do. All right? So I want to talk about our place in the world as young men for a sec, right? Because most of the guys watching this channel, I would presume, are young guys looking to quit video games, because the vast number of people who play video games are young men, and we're drawn to it because, I'll get to that, right? But young men are drawn to do hard stuff. We are the expendable workforce of the world. We're supposed to work the shitty jobs because we're young and we have lots of energy, and if we get injured, we can heal pretty fast, and we don't really have a lot to lose. We don't have a family of our own, a wife and kids that we gotta take care of, and if we die in like a work-related accident, we don't have to go back to them and tell them, hey, that person died and now you have to live by yourself. In a sense, all I'm trying to say is that we have nothing to lose, but we have all kinds of potential. So that's why we risk our lives throughout history. We're built, in the sense, physically, mentally, in terms of our hormone profile, to fight wars. Right? We're supposed to be out there doing battle, kind of like we do in video games right now, because we can't really express that in any meaningful way in today's modern world. So I want you to think back to maybe like your grandpa or your great-grandfather or something. If they fought in World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Cold War, any of these recent conflicts, they signed up because they had nothing to lose and they were looking for adventure. And they didn't have Overwatch or Dota or whatever to keep them occupied and glued to their seats. Instead of going to war, they couldn't have just sat in their mother's basement and played these games because they didn't have them. Society was set up differently back then, where the only way a young man could find adventure and purpose and community was either join a job or join the military or take these very specific routes that were also very ideal for young men at that time, that would lead to some kind of career, some kind of security in the future, which is what video games fundamentally just doesn't offer, right? So what makes you different from those young men who signed up for war in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s? What makes you different from them, do you think? The answer is basically nothing. You just have more distraction. You just have more things to divert your attention, divert your focus. So much more meaningless bullshit that society wants you to care about, but you shouldn't. And again, it's not your fault that you're in this situation, but it is your responsibility to fix it. So we don't really have any responsibilities as young men. We don't have anything that we have to take care of. This is what I was touching on before. But we have all of the opportunity. We have all of the potential. We're physically capable. These are the most productive years of your life. Whatever you spend your time doing right now is going to yield like 5x return on investment in the future if you take it seriously and you pay attention and you actually try and gain competence in something. It's that easy. So the most worthwhile thing to do when you're young is, according to my analysis, and according to other people who are much more wise and much more experienced than me, is to invest your time into high return on investment skills, tactics, basically. And once you learn those, you practice them for years and years and years, and you get really good at them. Then you can make a lot of money, get a lot of status and respect, or really just like be fulfilled in the future and just be more wise and know yourself better. That's a great thing to life, is getting to know yourself. It's getting to be familiar with yourself. Because let's be honest, if you're a gamer and you think that you want to be an esports player or something, or a streamer or a YouTuber, just because that's the cool thing, that's the respected thing, you want to be a rapper because they get the money and the status and the clout and whatever, you probably don't know yourself very well. You probably don't know what you enjoy at a very deep level, because you're just seeing all these different status symbols, and you want that because maybe you're insecure, you didn't get enough attention as a kid, whatever, you got bullied in school. So knowing yourself is critical to this. It's knowing what you like, knowing what you want to do with your life, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you don't like, etc. So, like I said, we've none of the responsibilities, all of the opportunity to our lives, but we choose to stay inside, and that frustrates me. That makes no sense to me. As young men, we choose to stay inside behind our computer screens, in our dark basements, instead of going out there and trying to make something for ourselves, trying to accomplish something, trying to beat some records, trying to just make something happen. We choose to just stay inside like a bunch of pussies, right? Like a bunch of weaklings. Like a bunch of like kids who were too sick to play outside, so their mother made them stay inside all the time, and because of that, they don't know how to orient themselves in the world. They're just too weak. They're not capable enough, so they just stay inside. It's pathetic, and I can't bear to see it. And this should piss you off as well. This pisses me off, but honestly, you're probably the one living this life, so this should piss you off if you are the guy that's staying inside and playing video games. Because once you cultivate that emotion, once you say, hey, I've been living like a moron for the past couple of years, and it's not something to beat yourself up about, but it is something to take responsibility for, and to say, hey, that was a waste of time. I'm not going to do that anymore, because screw this life and screw what other people want me to do. I'm going to go and live my best life starting now, and I'm going to help you with that in this video. But you're brimming with potential, right? Like I said, these are the most productive years of your life, and you're the most capable that you'll ever be. You're the most ambitious, most capable, most healthy you'll ever be in your life, because you're young and you're full of what do they say, piss and vinegar. You're held together by rubber and magic, and now is basically the time to go and start living up to your potential, right? So if only you looked at the world, if only you were able to look at the world with all of the opportunity that it offers, look at all the places you could travel to, look at all of the career paths you could take, look at all the new opportunities that are afforded people by the internet. If only you would just do research and look at that, then maybe you could find something that you wanted to do, and from there just get started with something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just something, right? So gaming is basically artificial masculinity. So I talk a lot about male psychology on this channel, but gaming is similar to masculinity in that it kind of emulates various masculine fields. So sports, business, entrepreneurship, warfare, military, stuff like that. Gaming is very closely related to those kind of areas. It's very similar if you're playing certain games. It's very similar to running a business where you gotta manage your inventory, you gotta make sure things are done on time, you gotta make sure your customers are satisfied within the game. If you're playing a strategy game, or you're playing an RPG, it's a lot like the military. It's a lot like commanding your troops, making sure they're healthy, they're fed, making sure they fight effectively. You got like your next 5 moves planned. You're doing all this different strategy stuff, and it requires some serious mental horsepower. It requires some serious like forward thinking, a strategic mind basically. So yeah. And especially like sports as well. If you're playing a fighting game, I think of fighting games specifically. If you're playing a fighting game, it's a lot like leveling up your character and making sure you got your tactics, your combos, your technique down. It's got to be tight. It's got to be like really, really good in order for you to win the game. You got to have good tactics. You got to have good spatial awareness and whatnot. And it's very much like playing a professional sport, in the sense that like you got to train yourself. You got to level yourself up. in order to reach the highest echelons of competition. So yeah, the only difference between gaming and reality, between these fake pursuits that are video games and these real pursuits that are sports, the military, business, being an artist, being a writer, being whatever you want to be, is that reality is full of disappointment. It's full of pain. There's no instant gratification, whereas that is what gaming offers you. That is why you were hooked on gaming, because it offers instant gratification alongside the purpose, the competence, the community, etc. So meaning and pleasure naturally follow pain. If you have a goal in your mind, and that's like a meaning, right? And then you experience some kind of pain. So let's say I want to go to the gym. I want to get muscle. I want to get jacked. So I go to the gym. The pain of me doing squats and doing bench press and doing bent over rows and doing these heavy compound exercises to failure, the pain of that is slowly going to turn into pleasure in the future, because I'm going to build muscle. That's a very visceral example. And I attach a meaning to it. So the pain, in a kind of perverse way, I can make it pleasureful in the moment, because I know that I'm doing what is necessary, what is productive, in order for me to get that physique that I've always wanted. So if you reset your dopamine, basically, and resetting your dopamine is key to this. If you're hooked on gaming and you're hooked on instant gratification and high dopamine activities, and you just kind of bring that dopamine down from here to about like here, right? If you bring down your dopamine threshold by just detoxing from video games, then you can go ahead into these pursuits where you can get status and glory and money and whatever these passive things are. But it's also just like having this sense of mastery and freedom from video games that you can expect. So if you want to get more into depth with that, you can always go ahead and check out my course. The link to it is in the description. It's basically a more in-depth analysis of how to quit video games effectively from my standpoint. And it's only like $50 right now, so it'll definitely be worth your money if you invest in it. But anyways, so the next step after we reset our dopamine from video games is to actually find ourselves. So you may be asking, well, what would I do instead of gaming? What is my calling instead of gaming? Let's say I do quit gaming, then what am I going to occupy myself with to make sure I don't go back, to make sure I don't have a reason to go back? That's a good question. But basically you have to ask yourself, what opportunity calls me? I think there's this old guidance counselor question that's like, if you had $1 million, then what would you do with yourself? What would you do with your life? If you had all the money in the world and you just needed to do something to occupy your time. Now you might say video games, and that's not the right answer, because video games suck, and you wouldn't be watching this video if you disagree with me on that. So what would you do if you had $1 million and basically all your expenses paid for the rest of your life? Well, maybe you go to space, maybe you like race cars in Dubai or something, but just think about what opportunity calls to you. Think about, maybe you watch some vlogs online of people doing a certain thing, and you said, hey, that's cool, I could try that. You saw these people running their YouTube or a business off of doing travel blogging or something similar to that, where you said, hey, that's cool, and that's also a legitimate career pathway. That's something I could make money off of. That's something I could support myself with. If I could learn that skill, then I think it would be really cool. Think about times when you did that, right? So many of us probably can't find one thing that we would want to do with our lives other than gaming that is more strong than that. And basically what we lack is just experience. We lack research. We just haven't seen a lot of the world. Odds are, if you're 15, 16, 17, you just haven't been outside of your hometown. You haven't seen enough of the world. You haven't traveled enough. You haven't spent enough time not behind a screen, being present in the moment, looking around, getting real, authentic, first-hand experience of things. You just haven't seen enough of the world. You just haven't seen enough of the opportunity around you in order to know what you actually want to do with your life. And that's 99% of the guys watching this, I guarantee. So how do you get experience? Well, travel is actually great for this. And laws are different from country to country, but basically if you are a teenager, all you need is like parental permission to travel, right? I've done that before. It was a great experience, but I definitely could have done it more. But if you're 18 or above, you, at least in Canada where I am, you don't need parental parental permission at all to just hop on a plane, go anywhere. You just got to take care of the paperwork, etc., which is actually pretty easy. If you look at these vlogs of like high school girls taking a gap year or something, it's very easy to travel abroad, right? Like if you're just like the average guy, you get your parents to help you with the paperwork, you take care of the budgeting, the expenses. You just like look on Reddit, look on Quora, look on these different financial websites, just find out like roughly how much you're going to be spending per month. You'll be pretty much well off. It's not super difficult to just get your paperwork, your visa in order, and convert your bank account into like this international currency thing where you can spend abroad, etc. It's pretty easy from what I've heard. So if you're broke, let's say, then, and you're still in high school and you haven't really had a job before, what I would recommend is you work abroad after you graduate, right? So you got no money, but then you sign up to go to this to work on this resort in Alaska or something over the summer. That way you can learn how to work, you can learn how to network with people and be social outside of video games. You learn, like I said, the value of hard work, how to work as a team, how to show up for work, how to like actually put in an honest day's work. You learn how to travel as well. You learn how to adapt yourself to a new community and go to this place where nobody knows you and kind of reinvent yourself in a sense, kind of take on this new identity that you haven't really had the chance to do since like high school, basically. And then, yeah, I just think that would give you a lot of work experience, or just like a lot of life experience in general. And if you come back from working like a season of that and your parents see you for the first time in like 2-3 months, then you'll be like a new person. And you'll probably get more respect from the old people that you knew back home. And yeah, I just think that would be a totally life-changing experience. So definitely think about that. So a couple resources that you can look at in order to do that are Verge Magazine, travel blogs, job postings on Indeed that ask people to kind of like fly out to like a certain resort, or it's like a certain resource extraction operation and work the kitchen or do cleaning or do all the, like these different like little roles that you don't need a lot of experience for, that are quite manual, that you can do for like a season and get paid decent money, because very few people actually want to do it, because so many people actually have something to lose if they go and fly out into this random resort in the bush for a month, right? So that's kind of your unique superpower as a young person, is that you have nothing to lose. You can put your time into something that's like long term, or like very very intensive, that just like most people can't afford to do, because they have bills, they have a house, they have another job that they gotta take care of, they have a family of their own, whatever. But you don't. You have so much more free time and free attention to invest into something. So there you go. But if you do have a couple thousand in hand, you can look at Reddit travel forums, you can look at Tim Ferriss's travel blog, you can look at company websites that are doing job postings. But if you do have some cash in hand, like even if it's just a couple thousand, then you can look into woofing, which is basically like worldwide organic farming or something, where basically you fly out to this specific organic farm someplace in the world. Maybe it's in like South America, maybe it's in North America, Europe, Asia, Africa. They're all over the place, and it's just like these different organic farms that are like kind of off the grid. They're all part of like this one central website where you can go ahead and like look up these different farms that are looking for help, and then you like schedule how much time you're going to spend there. There's kind of like this application process, and then once you get accepted, you basically just fly out to the farm and then spend however much time you want there. Maybe it's like a weekend, a week, 2 weeks, a month, etc. So that's pretty cool, and that would be definitely something I would try if you're interested in food, organic farming, living off the grid, digital nomadism, stuff like that. And there's also sources for cheap plane tickets, cheap housing, even free housing if you know what you're doing. There's like couchsurfing.com, which is actually very useful for stuff like that. Alternative travel, urban exploration, very fascinating stuff, you know, like getting free rides, free housing through different means that are varying degrees of sketchy and varying degrees of legal, depending where you are. That's very interesting, but I'm not going to talk about it or go too deep into it. But yeah, you can also join the military because it offers good pay, free housing, etc. And you're not necessarily going to be putting your life on the line if you are in the military. You might just be doing like some kind of civilian job. That's what like 95% of the jobs are anyways, where you're not like in the direct like front line of the battlefield where you get blown up at any minute like you see in the movies. So yeah, the point is to get a new environment and to get some more living experience out of your younger life, right? And if that's the incentive that you need to quit video games, if you're just stuck playing video games at your house for like 8 hours a day, and you're just like stuck like cycling between that and school, you're living like a South Korean schoolboy, then if the only thing that's going to change your lifestyle is just to have a radical overhaul and just to leave it all behind, go travel somewhere else for a season, and just say, yeah, screw this life, and just go somewhere else and just try and reinvent yourself. That's a very good strategy. And the thing about why it's so good, is that there's no way that you can fail. The only way that you can fail is to just not go. But if you go and you land at that airport in this foreign land, and you go to your accommodations and you set up camp there, then it's mission accomplished. All you gotta do is just basically live out the rest of your season there, and all of it's automated, and you can basically just like sit back and relax as the change happens, and you no longer feel attached to video games. It's kind of like this forced what do you call it? This forced withdrawal phase, kind of like the Vietnam veterans went through when they got like addicted to heroin in the jungle. Then the war ended, they went back to America, and then like 90%, I think, maybe not 90%, but like a lot of them just got off of it like immediately because they were in a different environment that was holding them accountable, right? So it'll be very hard to just like sit down and play video games when you're just traveling. Maybe if it's just on your phone, but maybe you just won't have the time to do that to begin with. So yeah, new environment, new people, it definitely helps you to quit video games. So yeah, maybe you can't afford to do that just yet. And maybe you can, but regardless, you're going to want to take this next step, which is you have to transform your mind first. So this is probably the most important section of this video, and you have to journal about what makes you dislike yourself. Get a piece of paper, get a pen, and just write down as kind of like a question to yourself. What do I do? What actions do I take that make me dislike myself? An obvious culprit, probably gaming, but just list them. And if you keep gaming, where are you going to be in 2 years? Where do you see yourself in 2 years? If you keep gaming, if gaming keeps being your central focus in life, and even if it isn't your central focus in life, if you do just keep playing video games on the side, where would you be in 2 years? What job are you working? What's like your body fat percentage maybe? Who are your friends? What do you spend your days doing? What are the thoughts that go through your head? Do you like yourself or do you not like yourself, etc.? And like I mentioned before, who/what/where would you be if you had $1 million? Who would you be? What would you do? Where would you go? Right? If you had $1 million, that's another thing to journal about. And then what do you fear? What's your worst fear as it relates to gaming? What's the worst possible situation if you were to quit gaming starting tomorrow and just try and go cold turkey? What's your worst fear if you do quit gaming successfully and you do go through that trial and that tribulation of trying to quit gaming and you do it successfully? What's the worst thing that could happen to you as a result of you quitting gaming? The reason I tell you to write these things down is because you have to be goal-oriented. You have to be life-obsessed in order to get out of the rut of video games. You have to be obsessed with things in life other than what is on the screen, right? You have to see the opportunities that are ahead of you, your potential, who you could become, what you could do, what you could accomplish, right? Like why is living in reality better than just escaping to video games to escape my crappy life right now, right? Versus the boring, mediocre coward, for lack of a better word, who just stays in his basement and plays video games and takes a dead-end office job just so he can stay above water while he plays his shitty video games and is lonely, and maybe just drinks on the weekend to try and get a little more enjoyment out of his life. So this is basically your rescue mission to save yourself, for lack of a better phrase. Yeah, so journal those prompts. And this whole plan that I have for you isn't about recklessness or stupidity, which you may assume if you keep watching this, because I say some pretty extreme stuff. But it's not about being reckless or stupid, but it's about destroying your lower self. It's about destroying your incentive to go back to video games. It's about destroying your incentive to be that weaker version of you. It's about to attach shame and guilt and pain and negative emotion to it so that you never want to go back to it, because it's pain, it's negative emotion, but it has no reward, right? Like immediate pleasure, short-term pleasure inevitably results in long-term pain. But short-term pain, like the kind of withdrawal you experience from a drug, like video games, for example, is inevitably going to result in long-term pleasure, the pleasure of being free from this addiction. You don't want to be the kind of guy, like I mentioned before, the 40-year-old guy who betrayed himself with thousands upon thousands of hours of video games and has nothing to show for it, right? The middle of degeneracy, I think, is the worst place to be. It's better to be on both ends of the bell curve, right? Like you imagine this kind of bell curve, right? The guy in the middle plays maybe 1-2 hours of video games per day after he comes back from his job, and maybe goes to the gym or something, or just does a couple productive things, while the guy on this end is a drug addict and he does nothing productive with his life, and he just stays coked out on heroin for 10 out of the 12 hours of the day, and then the rest he's just sleeping or getting some food or just trying to score again. And then this guy is totally productive. He's like a Buddhist monk or some kind of modern day entrepreneur, and he does nothing degenerate. Maybe he's an athlete or something, right? I think the middle is the worst place to be, because you're attached to so many things. You have so many things to lose if you try to go to either end. There's social judgment, there's financial burdens, there's just all these different concerns that you have to worry about if you want to go to either extreme from the middle. So the middle is the worst place to be as it relates to degeneracy. That's just one of my thoughts. And I say that because balance is essentially a myth. You're either going up or down in all parts of your life. If you divide your average day into just little sections where you're doing tasks, you're either going up, you're either doing something productive and necessary and meaningful, or you're going down. You're doing something unproductive and unnecessary and not meaningful, and it's just painful and it sucks and it's just bad for you, even if it feels good in the moment. So, and that could even be the thoughts that you're having. You might say well, if I'm brushing my teeth or if I'm having a shower, that's just kind of neutral, right? Not really, because it's the thoughts that you have while you're doing that thing. If you're driving in your car and commuting to work, are you doing something productive, like listening to a podcast, educating yourself, listening to an audiobook, etc., doing positive affirmations, just having positive thoughts in general, that's going up. But having negative thoughts, just listening to degenerate rap music and putting yourself in at the rapper's perspective, pretending you're banging these hoes and getting that money and whatever, that's negative. That's putting you down, because it's making you realize that you don't have these things. It makes you realize that you're inferior, and you're going to work at your shit job, and that your life is pretty meaningless to begin with. So yeah, in all parts of life and all activities that you could concern yourself with, you're either going up or you're going down. So those are just a couple thoughts and a strategy that I had in my mind about how to quit video games, and probably the most effective and the most extreme strategy probably ever. So I hope this video helped. Like and subscribe, and check out the next video. Should be around here. I'll see ya.